Can you put me up? Can I see if my lips look nice?
Oh, no.
They look great. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Yeah.
I
works
can't
for you.
They
sue.
look pretty
really
good.
hard.
It
isn't
actually, it actually works for you.
Yeah. It's,
Okay.
It does. Welcoming back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service, my friends. Welcome, my friends. Jamie and Alison are the Kills.
Hello.
It's so weird that I think I've known you like 20 years now. Has
Yeah.
it been 20 years?
Yeah.
You were one of the first people we met. I mean, that sounds
In our
ridiculous.
lives, you're the first person we met.
But as the Kills,
Yeah.
you were, I think we met you 2003, which would have been on our first American tour.
I feel like, if there was a guy working with me many years ago, Matty Silva, and I feel like we worked on a Jay Lindenberg campaign together with Stephen Klein many years ago. Does that sound accurate?
That sounds more than accurate. Sounds beyond accurate.
Does it feel when
Sounds
you
like an exaggeration.
when you think about like 20 years together, does it feel like that long? You're probably still like calling each other 4 times a day. I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel long at all.
Are you still calling each other that much every day?
Sometimes more than that.
Yeah.
Sometimes slightly less than that.
I feel,
Mostly,
honestly,
yeah.
I feel a little, I'm the more irritating one. I'm the more needy one. I like, in terms of like, I call Alison more than she calls me. Like, sometimes I feel a bit of a, oh my God, it's been 3 minutes. I get a bit of that vibe sometimes. She's like, what? I'm meditating. And I'm like, oh, I've got something really funny that just happened.
We just actually hung out together on our mutual buddy Neurocon's roof the other day.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've had a little bit of alone time with you, but I was also talking to Albert Hammett Jr. the other day, and I was saying I only see my friends on like podcasts now. And now you tell me I'm part of the corporate world, which is crazy because I was always like not part of that.
No, to get this straight, I was saying that I remember, the studio at the Dream Hotel was, I was thinking that was quite professional and, I didn't realize how far you'd walked up the ladder.
I don't know. I don't know if it's far, but we're just here we are. So.
Well, it's a long way down. Now I'm looking.
But there's so much to get into. Obviously, the new record. I want to get into the new record and your history because we talked about that many years ago, Jane. But Alison, you've never been here with us before, so thanks for coming in. I mean, the new music that's dropping, New York, L.A., which do you prefer? You spent a lot of time in New York. And I know you both live here.
Oh, you mean cities? Which one do you prefer?
Cities, because the new music is kind of based on New York and LA and different stories surrounding it.
I mean, a lot of it is, I suppose it's just where we spent most of our time, I mean, there's a lot of LA in this record because he's been living here now permanently and I've half in, half out. But New York to me is like the beginning of the band in a weird way. It's like where we just spent so much time there in our career, and especially at the beginning. It's still my favorite city in the world.
And you, James?
Well, I mean, there's places that I like to go, like bars and clubs that I love to go. I wouldn't want to live in them.
Yeah.
But they are really exciting. And New York's a bit like that, I'm really tempted to live there. But I do feel like it's a good life, a good creative life here. You kind of live on, it's like the absolute plug hole of the future. It's like Instagram, this city, LA.
Yeah.
And, with all its ugliness and its beauty and all its good and bad, I think you have to absorb that if you're making music or art or being creative. You don't just want all the nice things.
Yeah, when you think about the early music scene, CBGBs and the LA punk movement back in the day, which do you connect with more?
Oh, New York, for
New York.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't, like, we were doing this, like, when we did a launch here at the Viper Room in LA, and we did a launch in New York.
At Stephen Sebring's.
Yeah. And I was sort of DJing, so I was putting a DJ set together, and I thought, it'd be quite cool to play lots of, like, New York bands.
New York for New York and LA for LA.
bands.
We had such a fun time going through
So
that.
I sort of like looked up like bands from New York and music from New York and music from LA, and there's just a mountain of stuff from New York, and LA was all like a bit like, oh my God, no, oh what the fuck? It was like lots
different
of
vibe, man.
Just some of the worst music I've ever heard.
Although you had great punk bands from here. I mean, was Fugazi from here?
No, they're from DC.
Oh, DC, right. Oh, shit, my bad.
So
Right,
the opposite of from here.
Screamers, they were from LA, were they?
Yeah.
I think. No, I mean, there was a hardcore
There were some good punk
scene.
bands from LA back in the day. Bad Brains from here, I think. DC, too?
DC.
Everyone's from DC.
Why are you confusing all
I don't
DC
know.
bands with
You
that?
know what? What the hell do I know?
LADC.
Well, let's take it back a little bit to the beginning, because it's funny when I was kind of going over my notes earlier on, I always forget that Steve Aoki was involved in the beginning
Oh my
of your
God.
career.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I researched this, early on, I was discovering like you didn't really even have a band name when you guys got in touch with me early on. I don't even think there was music, right?
I'm not really sure why. I'm not. We'd done one little cassette that we sent to. There was a magazine called Tape Op, which still goes. It's still around, I think. And it was a review. Is that how Steve?
No, I knew Steve from Discount Days, and we played at Steve's house. And so
At his house.
At his house when he was in college.
Right.
Yeah.
He was doing
I'd known
women's studies at
I'd known
college, by the way.
I'd known Steve for
Very
a
cool.
while. And then I don't know. He reached out. I think he reached out and heard that did demo or something like that and wanted to start a record label.
Because people forget he
So-
signed like Block Party early on. And a lot
Yeah,
of
but
very
I mean,
cool
he
bands.
literally,
thing
we
he-
were the first release on
Yeah.
that label, and it was an EP.
I thought he had Pretty Girls Make
Rooster EP.
Graves. He had Pretty Girls Make Graves, I thought.
Later.
Was it?
It was, well, we were the first record. That's
And
pretty
he's
cool.
a but it was like she told me there's this guy who wants to put a single out, and I was like, babe, this makes no sense. We haven't recorded anything. And so we went into, we were opportunists. We went into the studio to record an EP so that this guy could release it. And this guy was, Steve Aoki.
And then Steve Aoki ended up like going on tour with us and driving our van and tour managing us. And I did
Amazing.
the air
I mean,
quotes because he would keep all the receipts in like a plastic carrier bag.
He
And
used to be in hardcore bands. Steve.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
like, it was like that was his scene, wasn't it? He was like some of the bands on Denmark, early Denmark, were
it's like
amazing.
screamo bands kind of.
Yeah, like Dance Disaster Movement, and Pretty Girls Make Graves, and the list is ended.
Our show today is brought to you by the fine folks at Sonos. I have to take a moment to talk to you about my favorite speakers on the planet, Sonos. First impressions, open up the box, some of the sleekest speakers I've ever seen in my life. Sonos has hands down been my favorite speaker brand for years, especially as a touring musician myself. I've used all types of speakers throughout my career, and I gotta tell you, Sonos beats them all for sound quality and ease of use. I recently got the Beam soundbar and the extra subwoofer. I plugged it in, it's super easy to use, and I gotta tell you, my room fills up with sound like no one's business. The Beam soundbar is the clearest dialogue and such insane bass, especially when hooked up to my extra subwoofer. My whole room shakes. It literally fills up my bedroom with so much sound. Lately, I've also been using the Arc soundbar for my living room TV. It's super easy to connect to. I was able to seamlessly hook it up. It's sleek and it blends right into my space. The Arc soundbar has really changed the way that I watch TV and movies. I'll have some friends over. I hook it up to the extra subwoofer, and it really helps to create that intense surround sound. The design is immaculate. It looks great below my TV in my living room. My favorite thing about Sonos speakers is how easy they are to use. You can set them up in under 20 minutes or so. The sound is incredible. They look incredible, and they are by far the best gift you can buy for anyone. Head over to Sonos.com to learn more and find gifts for every listener on your list.
But even before that, tell me the story how you two both met, because you were in Discount, and I feel like somebody that you knew had been like roommates with Jamie.
No, so he lived with two other people in this house in Gypsy Hill, and one of them worked at Rough Trade Records, and he helped book the tours, like the record shop, not the record label.
Right, yeah.
He would book bands' tours, and the other one, Ben, he would drive bands on tour. That was his job, and he had a splitter van, and Jamie lived upstairs from them. So when my band would come through town in London, we would always stay on their floor. And that's how I met Jamie.
And then you heard somebody playing through the floors. Who's
That
playing
was-
guitar upstairs?
Yeah,
right?
that was Jamie. What is that? Amazing sound. Yeah.
Who's that guy annoying me when I'm trying to sleep?
No, it was the coolest sound. I was like, what is that? That's incredible.
And did you knock on the door? Tell me how that meeting came about.
Well, Jamie came downstairs to hang out. I mean, these were two of his best friends at the time. Everyone hung out together. So we met in that flat, really. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in that flat,
And
which is
then
not
they-
very large.
And then her band Discount played in our local bar, and I watched, and I was flabbergasted by it.
But was the chemistry immediate when you both met?
No.
No.
It was,
No.
I mean, there was something, absolutely. I didn't know if it was, she was sort of, for whatever reason, she definitely seemed overwhelmed by me, and I wasn't really sure why. And that was some kind of, chem. going on there.
Chemtrails.
Not sure what it was, but I watched her band, and because she was so shy, it was hard to really have any kind of read on her because she didn't speak.
Which is amazing when you think about you live, because
Exactly.
I mean, you never seem shy to me. You do face
that's why
each other.
I saw
'cause-
that show, and it was
Yeah.
like this. It was like so. It was incredible, and I said to the person next to me, I was like, if I do another project, I want it to be with her. She's just crazy good.
And the story goes, you start playing music for each other, start listening to records, right? Like Lead Belly and things like that.
Yeah,
early
he
on.
started introducing me to all sorts of records I didn't know. Because I'd been so kind of locked into this certain sort of punk scene. There were things that I'd missed, like the Velvet Underground.
Huge
Stuff
thing to
like that
miss.
was a huge thing to learn about. And lots of bands, lots of Polly Harvey and Captain Beefheart and things like that. And
Royal
yeah,
Trucks,
we just
maybe?
kind of Royal
The
Trucks.
Trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played
We
with that. She really took that and ran like, oh my god, this because
love
it's
this.
like what was so brilliant about Royal Trucks was just how they were what we wanted to be. Kind of wanted to be Royal Trucks at the start, but it was like this 2-person gang, and I loved when they did duets like that song Liar, where they're just both like singing together, and I hadn't really heard that before, like just 2 people singing a whole song together, and it just felt like I want to be in this gang.
The sound is so unique. Obviously, I always talk about the fact that you guys never had a drummer. You love drum machines. It's something I know about. But I've actually seen you guys with drummers. I think I was at the Electric Ladyland studio show you did. Remember that show you did there with, I think was it 1 or 2 drummers you had at that show?
I'm not sure which
One.
incarnation.
It would have been one.
But there's
yeah.
a couple shows you did with maybe more than one.
We did
four.
four.
Four, right.
drummers, yeah.
Which is-
four, marching
Marching,
kind
like,
of
in a
drums,
line.
snares and bass drums, and that was it, wasn't it? Hi-hats, maybe?
They didn't have hi-hats.
No,
We
just
didn't allow
toms.
them any cymbals.
Yeah, we didn't.
No cymbals allowed.
Cymbals were banned for at least, I think, like 4 records. There was we don't find any cymbals.
I've definitely been in bands where people are like, you have too many cymbals. Like, we're okay with 2 or 3, but no more than that, right?
Yeah.
But early on, I think it was kind of like lofty ambitions just to maybe get a deal, Jamie. You didn't really think that you'd make a lot of money with this, right?
Yeah, we weren't really trying to get a deal even. We just, before we had the name for the band, it was like, there was only 2 possible labels we would go with, and we wrote those 2 labels down, and one was Domino and one was Rough Trade. And there was just, that's how it was more important that we were on a proper independent than anything else.
Yeah.
And then as it turned out, we signed to Domino for the world, and except for America, and then we signed with Rough Trade for America, and now we're with Domino for everything because they're so cool. Oh my god!
Oh, God.
But talk to me about how some of those early songs came about, because your sound is so unique. Obviously, the drum machine, the fact that the guitar playing is so percussive, right? So tell me about how that kind of came about, because it's unique. Everything you've done from the beginning, and one of the reasons why I've loved you guys so much since the get-go is the fact that your sound is so unique. So how did you kind of find your sound
It's a
early
kind of
on?
necessity.
Necessity, yeah.
There was a point when we were putting this band together, and we thought, like, do you know any drummers, and do you know a bass player? And we could, she'd be like, I know this guy that plays keyboards, and then so you start thinking, I don't want keyboards in my band, and then we were just playing every day, weren't we? Constantly, all day.
We were writing on
all
acoustic guitar,
night.
just like sitting in a kitchen, or just I would find things in the trash, like telephones or microphones or cables or things. We were like building things to make the stuff that we needed that we couldn't afford to buy, and taking apart kids' toys that made sounds and making rhythm tracks with that, and just it really was
Dictaphones, right?
so many dictaphones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we went on a real rampage with those, and mini disc players and anything that record anything. If it would record something, we would be using it, and. Yeah, and so that the music has really like been inspired by what we actually had, what we could use, what was around us, or what I could find in the trash.
It got to that stage where it just like, our sort of working ethic and the way that this was unfolding and building and moving on, it would just kind of overtaken the idea of having anyone else in the band. It seemed impossible.
Yeah.
How are we going to get them up to the speed? And we're not even going to like them because we're such a force now.
By the way, less opinions, easier,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's definitely less expensive.
Everything fell around it being two people and trying to make the most of what we had.
I think the thing that gave us the confidence that we didn't need any more people was the first show we ever played. And
Yeah, tell me about that. It's kind of a funny story, right?
It was Valentine's Day 2002, and it was at the 12 Bar on Denmark Street, and there had to have been no more than 50 people. No more than 50 people can fit in that room.
Yeah.
And because we'd never had like money to go and rehearse in an actual rehearsal space or anything, we kind of did everything quietly in our house. And it was the first time I ever heard us loud, like what we sounded like through a PA or anything, with all of this put together with this drum machine and Jamie playing electric guitar and vocals through mics. It was totally crazy. And in that moment, I was just like elated. I'm like, this works. Like, it absolutely works. And it sounds so cool. So from then on, I mean, we didn't even have a band name at that point, but we never thought about adding anyone else again.
Were there gigs, by the way, when the drum machine just refused to work? Or
No, there's only one in Tokyo.
That's
when,
the worst.
we was part of the festival. And
what do you do when something like that happens? Because do you bring a backup? Or you didn't?
No, we didn't.
You cry.
We couldn't play. We couldn't do the show.
You couldn't even play acoustic.
I mean, that's what they were saying, but it's just like we're not really that kind of thing, are we? I didn't even back then. I didn't even have an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, we were pretty. Our hands were tied.
I mean, now we would. I think we would go on and do something, but back then it was just. It had to be the sound. It had to be 100%. You know, and one of the Japanese stage hands had just pulled, like in a panic, pulled the mains cord out of the back of the sequencer, and it shorted and
That was it.
Yeah, erased everything.
Tell me about that first American tour, by the way. I heard this great story, Alison, how you actually booked the first tour by post.
Yes.
I mean, when you think about that, it seems so crazy. By the way, there was email in like 2000s, but you just were like, let me write letters.
Well, I wrote letters and I sent a burned CD of our music. I was really introducing us to these venues and these bookers. So I would make a letter and put the thing in there and say, you know, these dates, you know, I kind of had like a plan, like a bit of a routing that I was thinking that would be good for us. And
kind of self-managing the band at that point.
well,
Yeah, and
definitely
it was like,
self-booking agenting it.
It was all based on, you know, venues that had been Discount really had a relationship
most of them,
with,
yeah. So it was, I just wrote to everybody and I waited for a response, and gradually over the course of about 6 months, I put together a 3-month tour, and we went to America and we did it.
By the way, when you think about it, also like getting a letter back, sending a letter, it's like a month and a half process. Right?
Some of it, yeah.
Like, I mean, were there certain letters you're getting back, and like, well, we can play in Detroit. But
we did have phone. We had phones back then.
Yeah.
We had phones, and we did have
You didn't
email.
want to use them. You did just
No, it was important to send the letter and the music. That was important because it wasn't the kind of time where you could send music over the internet. Really, like it wasn't really like that.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm sure people got back to me on email or phone calls and stuff, but. Yeah, I mean, it was a long process. It was a dream. I remember my yellow notepad with just all the dates and all the cities and all the things and filling in the blanks. And if it was a yes in, like, you know, somewhere in Alabama that I'm going to need somewhere nearby, it's going to have to be Mississippi. We're going to have to, you know, or we could maybe go up to, like, you know, just kind of work it out. And it was...
And we wrote to people like, you know, I'd write to bands that I liked from Detroit. That's how we got a show in Detroit. I wrote to Soledad Brothers, and... They put us on there. They put one on there, and we played at this little arts club. Wasn't very many people there, but you know, Meg White was there, and all the people that mattered were there. You know, and it was like, it was funny.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I drove like 16 hours from New York. I think I played at the Metro with the band I was in. I got there, and there was like no one there.
Chicago?
But also Chicago.
Yeah.
But also they were like, you're going on at 8:30. We open up at 9 o'clock. I'm like, so
Wow.
we're going on. We just drove 16 hours. We're going on before the doors open. I don't know. You know, there was those weird gigs, right? When you're on tour like that.
I mean, nothing like that, but
I'm sure
there's
gigs
so many.
Yeah, but I'm sure there was gigs where you showed up on this tour, and maybe someone was like, "Oh, I didn't get the I don't forget."
It wouldn't have mattered if the doors opened
There
or
were
not on
some
some of
that-
these. Like there'd be one person there, and we'd be playing to the bartender. I mean, remember
were
that
some that
famous
just-
one where Lawrence Bell flew all the way from
Yeah.
England to come
were
and see
to,
his.
to witness the craziness that
Yeah,
we've
tell me
been
that story.
talking
New
about.
Orleans?
Well, it had gone really crazy. It was like we were overwhelmed. For us at the time, who hadn't expected anything, and we were getting like, you know, managers swooping down and offering us like $2 million. and like
Weird
there's all
deals.
this weird, and we were just like, we just had never bargained for anything like this, and we were going to playing shows that were it was getting more and more silly. So we were about to sign to Domino, and we just said, look, can we just take a little break, Lawrence, because it's just overwhelming and so much crazy shit. The shows are just going bananas. So he flew out to witness the craziness to New Orleans. And
he shows up.
Oh
3
my
people.
God. It was like
Mass hysteria.
8 people, something like that. Where like 4 or 5 of them were in the other band. It was
Or they worked there. I can't remember.
Bartender.
Oh God, he was so smug.
And did he still offer you after that?
Yeah, of course. He was like, I mean, but it was like doesn't seem. This seems manageable. The craziness, and we were like, shut up.
The buzz isn't exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah, exactly.
So those early like tours, Alison, you were driving.
We were
Jamie-
both driving.
You're both driving. And do you remember them like vividly?
Totally.
Like, what were they like?
I mean, it was so much fun. In fact, I really kind of prefer touring like that. You really, you do your work and then you drive, then you find a place to sleep, and then you wake up and you do the rest of the drive, and you just hope that you get there in time for sound check.
Yeah.
You really hope nothing happens, but things do happen. I mean, I remember we were in like Green River, Wyoming, and our tires literally melted off of our car, and we could no longer go. So we just lived there for 3 days in the middle of, at the
cool.
time, nowhere.
Have you ever
And
been to Green River, Wyoming?
No, I don't know
It's
if I
like-
want. Do I want to go?
Well,
I
it's
went
like-
back recently
It's
to
like
check it
a
out.
sort of bunch of bikers have just driven through there in like no man's land in the 60s or the 70s, and then just like someone's broken down, so they've just decided to live there. It's like they've got this real sort of
I think it's
Hell's
cool.
Angels
But
vibe.
first of all, there is like a massive Harley Davidson, mega store,
Yeah.
and there's a really cool old 50s diner that's great that I went back to, and I was trying to find the hotel where we stayed, or the motel, and it's it's a real place.
Yeah.
It
Which didn't
wasn't
matter.
before when we didn't have any car and we were on foot, and we had access to like the diner.
Well,
was it.
from the mass hysteria of 8 people at that gig to when people
Yeah.
finally started showing up, did it seem weird to you that like all of a sudden there was a buzz?
Yeah, I mean, even like by the end of the tour, like the West Coast was at the end of our first tour, and despite Lawrence's disappointment at the buzz, it was real. We ended up, we played in LA as one of the last shows, and that was that's kind of one of my favorite shows ever. It was like just absolutely rammed. So many people couldn't get in. We just did not understand what was happening. And then the show finished, and the crowd did not leave. They were all, and we were like, "What the heck? Why is it?" We were packing up our gear, and they were all there because everybody wanted to talk to us, and it was just seemed like so
It was
weird.
really
Why?
sweet. It was
Yeah,
really
it's just
sweet.
like it was so bizarre.
It was fun.
And did you ever think 20 years later, like, has this band taken you to places that you didn't think it would take you to?
I mean, I don't know. All I can say is I'm really grateful. We've really gotten to see most of the
There's
world,
moments that you're just like, oh my God, like just unbelievable. Like playing Terminal 5 in New York and walking on stage with Beyonce standing there in the side stage, shit. Like, just like, what?
I didn't know. She's a fan?
Yeah,
That's
she
awesome.
came to a show, and
to
I
a show,
just.
I don't-
Random, by the way. Like, I
Yeah,
never would have thought.
and then like every time we play Coachella, just when we just think like, oh, this is shit. Before we walk on stage, Ian Mackay's there to say like,
I'm like, everything's all right.
everything's all right. Ian Mackay's here, and he's giving us a hug.
I want to say the Beyonce Kills collaboration because that could be next.
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you never got along like this? Because you always seem to get along so famously. I've known you, like I said, for so many years. Was there ever a time? I mean, I'm sure you fight a little bit, but I never really see that. I only see the love.
We've had moments, haven't we?
Yeah, I suppose, but I've never felt like we don't get along.
It's
Yeah.
easily sorted out.
Because there's only 2. You don't have to worry about all the other band
Yeah.
members getting in the
There's
way.
no pittings and taking sides. It's just us.
And how did it come about, Earlam, where you faced each other? Was that like a thing you were just like, we're both kind of shy and we can't look at the
I think
Yeah.
that was a lot part of my nerves,
Yeah.
and doing something new. It was really like, okay, we are only 2 people standing up here, and so we did start like that.
I mean, that was my my first impression of when I saw Discount, when I saw Alison playing with Discount, that her whole sort of performance style was as if you weren't there, and
Yeah.
that is not that's kind of rare to see. Most people are like performing to the crowd, but she would be doing this thing where you kind of felt just fucking lucky to be watching this, kind of like almost like you were, you know, sort of peeping in on something.
You shouldn't be watching this.
So that was her that was her natural sort of performance style, and it just became ours, you know, because it was just it was just better to ignore people. I hadn't really worked out how to interact with an audience. I didn't even want to. That was we hadn't bargained for there being one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been sitting like face to face in like a flat doing this for so long. That's just how we did it.
Yeah.
20 years later, it all worked out. Well, let's talk about the new record, obviously. God Games is coming out October 27th.
Yeah.
The title of this record actually takes on kind of new meaning with what's going on in the world. Crazy times, obviously. This weekend was heavy on my heart, I'm sure, for everyone. Everyone in the world's going through something, looking at what's going on TV and being so close to what's happening for everyone, and everyone feels it in their hearts, you know? Does the title of this record take on a bit of a new meaning now with everything going on this last few days? God Games?
The title now is for everyone else, so if it takes on a meaning for anybody or everybody else, then that's what its purpose is. But it was obviously not, the name wasn't conceived with anything like this in mind, obviously.
No, but I've always felt like that title makes me just think of a fucked up situation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, and it can mean 100 different things. It depends on what's going on, but it is very applicable.
Yeah, and it's funny because we never talk about this, Jane, but you're like an atheist, right? You are an atheist, right? So this is kind of a juxtaposition. You kind of creatively tapping into that.
Well, actually, literally, God Games is a sort of, by its nature, it's kind of like it's an atheist thing, God game.
Yeah.
Because a God game is a subgenre of video game, like The Sims or Afterlife, those kind of games where you play God. So there's literally what you're doing is like inventing a metaverse and then inventing a God in order to play with life.
Get what you want.
I never played those games.
Me neither.
No, me neither. Me neither.
I can't picture you playing them either.
I don't play,
No.
but I wrote God Games, the song, and I thought, oh, that sounds great, God Games. I love that title. And I thought I'd stolen it, so I looked it up, and that's what I discovered. And I thought, I love this because it is a sort of, it's like what we do in our creative lives, you know, create a little universe, invent a God to play with people and play with life. And it's actually what religion is, really, inventing something to play with people, in my view.
It's crazy to think this is the first time you've ever worked with a producer, right?
No.
It's not the first time.
I mean, the thing, what we do is,
Well, you work with Paul for the first time.
since our third record, what we do is we spend all our time writing the record and making the record, and then we get someone in right at the end to make it into a real thing, proper. You know, because I'm not very good at time management and finishing things.
That I know.
And I need someone to be able to say, no, that's good enough. That's that. So you know, on Midnight Boom, we had Alex Epton, Triple Exchange. On Blood Pressures, we had Dan Carey.
Oh, that's right.
On Ash and Ice, we had. Well, we did. Electric Ladyland was our producer there, really, and.
But Paul Epworth worked with the band early on, right? And
he was a sound man on tour.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, like in 2004.
And then he's gone on to work with Adele and whoever.
But yeah, we went from Steve Aoki, who had yet to become Steve Aoki, and Paul Epworth.
Everyone should work with us. We're lucky charms. We are.
You will go far.
From sound man to Adele.
Yeah.
Basically.
From women's studies to greatest DJ in the world. You know, we've got the Midas touch.
I think we do. Who wants to hang out?
You actually thought these songs might be for your side project initially, right? Or a side project?
Well, we talked about this. I think both me and Alison agree that I was tricking myself. It's just, you know, I need something to get going on a record, and I need to get started on it, and I need a focus, and I need some sort of restrictions or goalposts. And every time I picked up my guitar to write a song, it just sounded like it's generic kind of, you know, it's like not exciting me.
Because people want No Wow Part 5, right? They don't want you to reinvent yourself.
It's so funny because they didn't want it at the time.
They didn't want it at the time. You're right.
I kind of disagree because I
love that record.
Everyone always thought you guys were the coolest band ever. So I kind of disagree in that. I think you were really embraced with that first record for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the second record was the weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It grew on people.
Yeah.
It's their favourite now. But yeah, so I wanted to free myself up and be able to like just write a kind of classical piece if I wanted, or some just throw lots of different things in. Like, bear in mind, at the time it was lockdown. I was listening to all sorts of things that I love. I wasn't on the road listening to guitar music. I was listening to MF Doom and Dean Blunt and like Charlie Mingus and just all. And I wanted to throw them all into songs.
And a lot of reggae, I think. No, some reggae. It feels like there's some reggae.
No, I mean that was probably that was more Blood Pressures
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
But I was listening to all this stuff and I just thought, it's not the Kills, and it would make me kind of stress out. So when I wrote something that didn't sound like the Kills, I'd put it into this side project, which was called LA Hex, and then I played a couple of things to Alison, and she was like, "Nah, you idiot, this is the Kills. Give me a mic."
Well, let's talk about the video. Steven Sebring, our
Sure.
mutual friend. I mean, he has this amazing contraption where there's like 200 3D cameras in the circle.
So crazy.
So amazing. We were chatting with him the other day in New York. So how did that come about? Because he's worked with, obviously, Patti Smith. People know him from directing her documentary, being her best friend.
Yeah.
How'd you guys all meet?
Well, we met through Matt Pollock introduced us and took us to a studio to show us this insane camera and meet Steven. And it was incredible. I mean, we were so inspired. We don't understand it at all, which is the best part, because I'm like,
I still don't understand.
I love
it.
this.
Yeah,
No one
because
understands this but you, Steven. Nobody.
It turns out it's a lot. It's quite easy to do, but really difficult to explain.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of quite natural. I mean, the technology's bizarre and it's definitely out of this world, but it doesn't look. It's very natural working with it, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but we should explain what it is. So it's like, like 200 cameras. I keep thinking it's like 1,000 cameras.
Yeah,
but it's
same.
basically in what looks like a dome. It's a circle. You get inside, you crawl inside of it, you stand on a platform in the middle of it, and you shut the door. Someone else has to shut the door. Right. And then as you move around, it photographs you from every single angle at the exact same time. So it basically turns you into a hologram.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can do it with anything, so you can see it from all angles. It's like being in a science project. It's cool, and you kind of feel like you don't know what's happening, and
I think it's ahead of its time. It's
It
got
is.
this
It's very-
incredible technology.
I love those little. It's got these turntable sized pyramids. Pyramids? They are pyramids. Yeah, kind of pyramids, I think. And they're the size of a turntable. And he mounts them on top of these speakers, and he puts like little hologram. He put a little hologram of us inside, and it's just that to me. I want one of these things. It's
You really
just
want-
like,
I
it's
think
just
he makes like mini ones too that you
Yeah,
can have in
you
your
can-
house or
but you
something.
can
Yeah,
put on your
that's what I
phone.
mean. The little
Yeah,
mini
the little
ones.
ones,
He does. Yeah, they're kind of like snow globes with holograms in them. It's like, what?
Well, October 27th, the record's out. It's a fantastic record, by the way.
Thank you.
So
Scotty.
wherever you find records, find the record. A couple other things I want to touch base on. Jamie had this amazing run with Iggy Pop recently, which was unlikely because it was all these it's like Chad Smith and our buddy Andrew Watt. And I mean,
What are you saying? What are you saying?
I'm saying it was
What are you
unlikely.
saying?
It felt like almost it was like this incredible pairing, but a dream come true, I imagine. I know you always loved Iggy, Alison.
Yeah.
So one of the greats.
one of the greats.
Yeah. So what was that like? Some of those gigs?
I think Andrew wanted me to do it because well, I'd kind of met. I'd known that I was on Iggy's radar because he'd mentioned me in a one of his radio shows and said something really lovely and complimentary. And then we were at one festival, which is my favourite thing that ever happened in my life. Where I was walking with Alison, and Iggy came towards us, and he got down on his knee
Amazing.
and kissed my hand.
Oh my God.
So I kind of knew
He knew he was in the band already.
I knew I was on his radar. But I think the idea was that I would bring it some like messy rawness, you know? Because I mean, Chad and
They're all
Andrew
such
and Duff. I mean,
incredible
I am
players.
not joking when I say they're maybe three of the best musicians
Definitely.
in the world, like rock musicians right now. Incredible. And so
Yeah.
it was
Andrew was like my little brother for so many years, so it's
That's
so
right.
weird to see that he's produced like the Stones. I'm
I
still
know.
like
It was,
scratching my head.
it was really funny
It's
when
surreal.
we were starting rehearsals, and he was like, "Well, you should come over to my house, and we'll do like a pre-rehearsal because we've all been so fucking busy. I mean, you've been finishing your record, and I've been doing the Rolling Stones, Post Malone, Paul McCartney, the Beatles. yeah. Kind of. And I was like, oh, shut up.
Yeah, I think Iggy spat on me at that gig. I was at the Celine one that you guys DJ'd at. He definitely spit on me, but it was a great show. Alison, tell me about the Dead Weather too. Any more plans to do stuff with Jack?
There isn't any plans, but I love those boys.
Yeah, I'm sure you will at some point, right?
Who knows? I mean, everybody's got their shit going on.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. That was always the kind of way of that band. It was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and there's no pressure.
How did you meet Jack, by the way?
We met him a really long time ago at Reading
Festival,
like maybe in 2004 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we ever played Reading Festival, the White Stripes played.
Amazing. I have to say, you have the coolest friends. Charlie Saxon and I met the other day.
Oh, Charlie.
And I talked to him. I said, I'm friends with the Kills, and I know that you're friends with him for years. And he's like one of the most underrated musicians of all
Absolutely.
time.
He's
now
incredible.
his son is playing too.
Marlon,
Marlon.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
So that, and then you had a great friendship with Anthony Bourdain over the years. So you definitely have the coolest friend group of anyone. And now
so much.
Iggy's your friend too.
Okay.
So talk me anything else about the record. It was recorded at church, by the way, before we.
Not
The
intentionally,
Church.
but it's called
Not
The
intentionally.
Church.
The
The
yeah.
church, okay. So not
Which
a
is-
church.
No, I mean, it is a church. It used to be a church, and then it was turned into a studio by Dave Stewart. I might have gotten this wrong, but he was the one that, certainly Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics was the one that made it, put it on the map as a studio, and which means that Bob Dylan and fucking Roy Orbison
Amazing.
recorded
Put it
there
there.
with Tom Petty, because the Travelling Wilburys recorded there,
Incredible.
which at the time didn't register, but now I'm kind of about it. Yeah,
Pretty insane.
yeah. And it's Paul Epworth studio now.
Yeah, it all feeds into God Games for sure. So October 27th, Alison, any more art stuff going on? You had an art show, Firepower in New York, not long ago.
Yeah, and I had one. Then I had it out here. I did a Firepower Los Angeles version and a Mexico City show, and I don't remember. I'm losing track, but I don't have a solo show planned yet. I think
Okay.
I'm gonna need this record to come out. We need to go on tour forever.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do one.
I remember when you were also doing like your own videos, right? There was like a lowrider situation.
Oh yeah.
You were filming those too.
Yeah, during
right?
the pandemic, that was the thing I got into. I got really into Final Cut Pro and making music videos or any videos, just understanding how to put those things together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of kept me.
It's great that you still
sane.
love the art form of videos because I feel like it's like a lost
do.
art form in a sense, right?
Yeah, I do. I really enjoyed doing the videos that we've done for this record. I think for the first time, I think we have the language and know what we want really well. I feel like I've loved many of our videos in the past, but it's been much more collaborative this time. And so far,
Yeah.
I've loved all 3.
Is there a scoop on the next single? Because to date, there's been 3 songs you've released.
It's a song.
Because this won't come out, by the way, for like a few weeks. So
It's
Okay.
a song called "Waste a Piece."
Yeah.
that might be the next single.
Yeah, and we've done just talking about videos. We've shot a video for it, which we don't really know how it's going to be. It's a very
What's the concept?
left field for us. It's a golf video.
Oh, wow.
Just golf. Do you like to golf?
golf.
I don't golf.
Me neither.
Me neither.
Although a lot of musicians golf, like Alice
We
Cooper,
don't golf.
Tommy Lee. No, I don't.
We
it's
always
not
say a lot, and then we
Yeah.
name 2, and then that list has ended.
Yeah, I got like
Tommy Lee and-
Tyler the Creator,
Alice Cooper and Tommy Lee, I think, are the only 2 people I know that golf.
Cam from Tame Impala. He started a golfing
Oh,
company.
okay, all right. So are you both golfing? Is that the concept?
No. Actually,
You're on a
We're
golf
like
carts
golfing
and-
adjacent.
we are
Golfing
really.
adjacent. What does that
golfing
mean?
atheists.
Golf- That's the name of the next record.
Yeah,
Golfing
yeah,
Atheists.
Yeah. Golf
Amazing.
games. No, golf is a
Golf
game.
games.
Well, we do this amazing like viral moments at the end of the show, these top 5 lists, which are always a lot of fun. So I want to get into the first one with you. Your top 5 favorite side project bands of all time.
I don't know.
You guys DJ, so you know so much about music. So we'll start with number 5.
Side project bands.
I
Wow.
mean, you know more about music than almost anyone, so this should be like
I
an
don't.
easy
I
one.
I'm
don't. I'm the
terrible
worst.
like this though. Maybe like if you could call it a side project, Neil Haggerty, Howling Hex,
Okay, that could be number 5.
side project. aside from Royal Trucks.
Is that number 4, Royal Trucks, or is that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's his
okay,
project.
the side project.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say number
Right,
4.
this is going to be slow.
We can
Yeah.
put the Dead Weather in there if you want.
Dead Weather.
That would be
come
nice.
on.
That'd be nice.
I don't
I
want
like
to say
that
them
band.
for you, but I
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll add them.
add them. Number 3.
I was going to say Travelling Wilburys, but that's silly. Don't believe it.
Why? It's a great one.
Yeah, they weren't very good.
Really?
Nah. Come on.
Okay.
I mean, not as good as they were individually.
Right. Well, I agree with that. So that could be like an honorable mention. So we're still at number 3 then.
British
Wait.
bands don't really do side projects. You come on, you've got to come up with. No.
I was thinking about the farts.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That works.
Not a side project.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah,
We
it's
don't know
like
what they sound
Duff
like.
McKagan's band before Guns N' Roses, which we
Yeah.
heard about today.
Okay. All right. So we'll put them at number 3. But it was before Guns N' Roses. So
Yeah, it's not a side project.
All right. Well,
I mean, I don't really understand the definition of side
It's
project.
when
I
you're doing a
suppose I
band and
know.
you do a different one.
I know. I can only think of other bands that the same.
I
people
can't
have been
think
in.
of any. Throw some. Like let's. I'm just.
well, I said the Dead Weather because that.
That was definitely a side
Yeah,
project.
yeah,
Yeah,
that-
that totally
that's-
falls into the category, which then
Or the
Or the
confuses me.
Raconteurs. Again, I don't want to. This is not.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, where's it a side? I don't know
Side project from what?
exactly.
From the main, the first band, let's say.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is just too gray,
Too
too much
gray.
gray area.
Is there a last one that we can think of?
Oh, Mind Flare. Come on.
Okay.
Mind
You
Flare.
just woke up.
All right, well, this next one's going to be really easy for you. Top 5 favorite punk bands of all time. Super
Okay.
easy.
Fugazi.
Is that number 1 or number 5?
Well, that's not my number one. That's not my number one, definitely.
Mine is The Mob, who are a band from Somerset, who are an anarcho-punk band. The Mob.
Number 1?
Oh, they would be my number 1, but we can keep going. This
Okay.
is just a 5.
Let's go to number
Yeah.
2.
I really like that band Death. I feel
Okay.
like they're a punk band,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean, in terms of
Bikini Kill.
output and what actually, I think, I never really liked them at the time, but in terms of like what they, I believe them more now, The Clash.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, like
could you-
just that kind of what they did was quite incredible. Like like combat rock, some of the stuff on that, way ahead of its time.
it still sounds incredible.
And
Yeah.
it's still, they kind of really stretched the boundaries of what punk music could be. You know, it
Definitely.
didn't have to be like, you know, it could be all sorts of things. They brought Jamaican music to punk.
By the way, I just
first-
thought of a great side band, and when we're doing this, Pill.
Oh, yeah.
Is that
So
a
that's-
side band?
yes, it's a side
that was the
band from
band
the-
after the Pistols.
Kind of like a side
But
band.
it's not a
Oh,
side
okay.
band.
I don't know.
Well,
okay.
if we're doing that.
All right, we're still going. All right, number 3. Number 3 on best punk bands of all time.
Okay, The Makeup is a side project of Nation of Ulysses, so I'm going to say that.
But we're going back. Now we're jumping.
Nation of
we're
Ulysses would be a good punk band, though, even though.
Nation of Ulysses is a good
Yeah.
punk band.
Is that
Yeah.
number 3?
Yeah, but we also added Death, and we have The Mob, and we have Fugazi, so we just need one more.
One more. Top 5 punk bands of all time.
Bikini Kill, maybe.
Oh, wow, okay, go for that.
I like Bikini
why
Kill.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All great choices. And last but not least, the top 5 most underrated music artists of all time. Underrated. I'll start it out just to give you an example because I think she's a little underrated. PJ Harvey, as an example.
Oh, you think she's underrated?
I
okay,
think,
I
you
think
know,
she's massive.
I
So
mean,
that's
like,
just a
yeah.
perception.
Number 5, The Kills. Okay. I can't say it. It has to be you guys. Say
I
it.
mean, PJ Harvey's been so incredibly important, but I don't think that she particularly ever made commercial music. She made amazing music.
Jonathan Fire Eater.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Number 4.
Seriously underrated they were.
Yeah.
Number 3.
We're not very good at this.
Captain
are we?
Beefheart. I don't know.
Were they underrated?
I don't know. I mean, that's sort. They're not widely known.
Again,
I mean, you know.
they were such an art band.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're gonna be Don Van Vliet, you're gonna be Don Van Vliet. Like that's it. You're just covered in
Morphine.
paint. Morphine. They're
Yeah.
a really good band.
Great band.
Underrated. They should be one of the hugest bands.
Number 2. We're on number 2. There's underrated musical artist.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh, Jamie.
Oh, no, that's
No.
it.
Does not work.
Scratch that one. We only have 2 more.
Okay, I'm thinking. It's just very hard to think so quickly. Going through my whole record collection.
Oh my God.
You get so
Jamie
loud.
just woke up.
I
The
know.
most underrated. Saul Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
artist.
I
Yeah.
mean, he should be
Yeah,
Billboard crazy.
he's a genius.
And maybe number one. most
Saul
underrated.
Williams is number one.
Number one, okay.
We're going to go for number two
Number
now.
two, most
Okay.
underrated musical
We're not-
artist.
What about Fiona Apple's last record?
Yeah,
Should
Fiona
have just
Apple,
been like,
that's a-
could
I
it
think
be?
s- I don't know. Yes, we'd go for that.
I mean, I know she had some big hits, but
but just because it's less
She's a bit
awkward,
quiet lately.
it's less awkward to say something than to just be silent for another 5 minutes. Fiona Apple, number two. Number one, Saul Williams.
Amazing. Well, October 27th. It's so great to see you. I hope that I don't see you only on podcasts because
Yeah.
you are my friend. So I feel like this.
Yes,
you
well,
know,
let's hang. I actually tried to get to have a drink after this, but we got rehearsed.
And I'm flying to New York in like 10 minutes.
Oh,
Are
wow.
you?
Yeah.
Oh, good
That
job I
sounds
didn't
fun.
organise
So
anything.
we'll hang out in New York.
Yeah, we're going to Europe for a month, and then we're back mid-November. Let's
Yeah.
get our schedules together. Would you like to Christmas with me?
I would love to see that. October 27th. This will already come out by then. The record will be out. Everyone pick up the record. It's amazing. I can attest to that. Love you guys. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
for
so
coming in. All the
much.
best.
Lots of love.